Good evening, Wareham, and welcome to the Select Board meeting of June 4th, 2024. May I have a roll call, please?
Tonight with us is myself, Jared Chadwick, Ms. Whiteside, Ms. Corbett, and Sherry.
Quirk.
Halfway. And Mr. Bowen, and wait 1 second here. There we go. Sherry Cork, Sarah Corbett, myself, Ms. Whiteside, and Mr. Bowen. Absent tonight is Mr. Bessie and Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you. There is a quorum present. Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Would you do me a favor, Liam? Either shut the door or ask them to be quiet.
Shut the door real quick.
Probably shut the door. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you all remain standing, please? On June 6th, we will observe the 80th anniversary of the invasion of Normandy. Can you hear me? Operation Overlord, known as D-Day. In Normandy, several hundred veterans who saw action on that day are joining in a week of ceremonies honoring their fallen comrades. They range in age from 95 to 107 years old. Approximately 16.5 million men and women from the United States served at some point during World War II. I ask that we observe a moment of silence in honor of their service. Thank you. Resident comments. Comments on non-agenda items shall be limited to 2 minutes. There will be no more than 10 minutes per meeting of resident comments. Based on past practice, as well as a possible violation of the open meeting law, the Select Board will not respond or comment. Is there anyone here who would like to address this board under residents' comments? Seeing none, I will move on to announcements. Ms. Quirk?
Yes, I would like to celebrate being here in person. For the last meeting, I was dialing in from Italy, which was exhilarating and challenging. I have to say, upon return, I came down with COVID. So for the past week and a half or so, I've been less active than I would have been ideally coming in and starting out as a Select Board member. One of the things I missed was the Pride Day celebration, but I understand it went forward and was a success. I just want to say a word about the importance of allies who were well represented at Pride Day in expanding and recognizing the rights of LGBTQ people. A lot of people may believe that those of us who are LGBTQ suddenly develop the courage to come out of the closet and become known and recognized. It actually was the result of efforts by allies who made the world safe for us. So for that reason, I thank the people who were there, who are allies, and in particular, I thank Jared for his role in planning this celebration, which is very important to the town.
Thank you.
Corbett?
I was a volunteer at the Oyster Festival, as was my husband, and it was very, very well attended, very well run, and kudos go out to the organizers. It's a lot of work to pull that off. The organizers are Tom Bickey, Bob Brady, Nora Bickey, and Linda Burke. It was a very good event. My husband and I were given staff vests and programs to hand out, and we were able to tell people where the bathrooms were. But one of the things that we were asked that I wasn't able to tell the people where they were it was about bike racks, and I have started to look into that, and I will continue to look into that further. I was also at the Memorial Day ceremonies around town, very moving, very well done event as well. Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Staunton did a tremendous job at every one of the 6 stops in making us all feel important and included, and how important the day was. The invocation was given very well by Erwin Russell, the Pledge of Allegiance by VFW Commander Ben Baptiste, the Laying of the Reef by Julio Roderick, and the taps were played, I cannot hear them without choking up, by Christopher Berg. And I want to say, Nora Bickey, who was one of the organizers of the Oyster Festival, was up bright and early the next day giving out pins in representation of the Veterans Parade Committee. She was accompanied by another woman. I'm sorry I didn't get her name, but that was very nice. I'm sorry?
Debbie.
Debbie was also there, passing out these very nice pins. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Chadwick?
Yes. So I have a couple. One is obviously the Pride event was this past weekend. Last year I had someone approach me who wishes to remain anonymous, not due to his lifestyle, but due to his career. And we started with Cat Jones this event, and Cat Jones this year kind of took the leads with it and ran. And our goal is to make this bigger and better every year. And like Ms. Quirk said, I'll be an ally until the day I die. It was a good time, and I highly recommend everybody else come out next year. Spend some time out there. There was a lot of cool stuff, and you learn a lot of stuff too, for those that don't know. Once again, thank you very much to Cat Jones. Next, Ms. Corbin and I spent a couple hours at WCTV, or Wareham Media, on Tuesday, touring the facility, talking to the producers and executives there. They have come a long way. The building is starting to look beautiful. There's a lot more stuff being done than there ever was. They've expanded onto the internet now. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram. New things to check out is Main Street Eats. Did I say that right? Main Street Eats, or is it Main Street? The Main Streets. The Main Streets, my apologies. The main streets, and they go around interviewing businesses and, you know, people around town. It was really neat to learn about that. I'm excited for it, and I guess they have a really good viewing so far.
Can I ask you to be quiet, please? Excuse me. Thank you.
Next, the Toby contracts, Toby's nurses contracts, they've been settled and ratified. I don't have much more information on it than that. Once I hopefully get some stuff, I will let everybody know what the outcome is. Lastly, this really doesn't have to do with town politics or anything in the town, but I took the month of April and May and spent them in tech rescue training classes through Mass Fire Academy. I ended up completing everything that is necessary to get on a technical rescue team. And the reason I bring this up tonight is the fire service, from what it was when I started many years ago, it was very hard to get on a fire department. You really had to know someone who knew someone. Today, the fire service is hurting. There's a lot of job openings all across Cape Cod, all across Massachusetts. Seems like the younger generation is not interested in it. I don't know why. But
Younger generation?
the younger than me generation. They all start when they're 18 to 23, so. So the reason I'm saying this all basically is if anyone's interested in this or has kids that are interested in this, feel free to reach out to me. I can point you in the right direction. I can set you up. It's a wonderful career. And I mean, honestly, the best part about it is you work 2 days a week. It's 8 days a month. You get 5 days off a week. You can go do more work, which most of us do, or you can go on vacation like quite a few guys do. So that's it.
Thank you. I just want to let the people know that Route 6 and 28 work will be only on westbound side on Fridays to minimize traffic issues. There is also a celebration of Alan Slavin's retirement being sponsored by the Oak Grove Cape Verdean Cultural Center. And there are posters all over town. If you want to attend, it's $25 a ticket. The shellfish openings, there's no shellfishing on Sundays, June 1st through September 15th. No shellfishing, period. And the soft-shell clams are only to be harvested in the yellow maps, which are around town and also on the website. From May 1st through September 30th, there is no oyster gathering at all. I want to let the chairs of all of the boards and committees know that they are responsible for making sure that members are being re-upped if they want to be re-upped, and they're also responsible for finding new people to join their committees. And I know that Ms. Corbett read a list last couple of weeks ago that was quite extensive. So please get that done. If you have people who are interested, please let Karen Wilford in the Select Board's office know, and we will get the paperwork started for you. And a really neat kind of announcement. The Unified Track team at the school are the Division II state champions. That means that they won everything. The Unified Track is part of the Special Olympics program, and so it's really an exciting thing for the kids to have accomplished, and I just want to say congratulations to all of them. I'm going to ask all of you to turn your phones off so we don't have any more interruptions. Mr. Sullivan, would you let Mr. Buckland into the meeting, please? We will skip over to item... where is it? I want Mr. Buckland to address the possible vote to release money for Phase 2 on Windward Pines, and also to address the discussion and the possible vote for this board to write a letter of support for the grant application for the One Stop program. Mr. Buckland, would you identify yourself for the record, please?
Ken Buckland, Interim Planning Director and Community Development Director.
Do you want to do the Phase 2 Windward Pines release of the bond first, please?
Sure. This was an $800,000 plus dollar bond that was set up for the construction of the road in Phase 2 and Phase 2 of the Windward Pines Bay Point development project. It was contingent on the developer putting up a bond for Phase 1 for the remaining work, which is minor, but still requires a bond to preserve the right for the town to make the improvements, finish the improvements should the developer default. At this time, I have not received a Phase 1 bond.
Okay, the planning board voted 3-1-0 on May 13th to ask us to release that bond. Are you saying that we should hold off until you get the bond back for Phase 1?
Yes, that was what the developer had promised at the last meeting we held with him.
That's what I thought. Okay, so we will hold off on that one. Thank you, Mr. Buckland. How about the discussion and possible vote for the letter of support for the grant application for the One Stop program from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts? And we sent a draft letter out to the members so that you could see it. Mr. Buckland?
Yeah, this is a grant application that was put together by Sherry Quirk, Carl Schultz, and Julie Moran, I believe, if not others, and it's with SERPET, the Regional Planning Agency, and it's to do a major revision to the zoning bylaws. clarify them and make them easier to read and to understand, and to enforce as well too. And so I drafted a letter of support that I hope that the Board of Selectmen can endorse to submit with the grant application to the one-stop program for growth of the state.
Thank you. I know that there will be a $10,000 matching grant from the town for this. What's the total amount of the grant, sir?
I'm actually not sure of what the total amount is. There were 2 proposals that were submitted, and there were 2 different values put into those proposals.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
The 2 estimates were, if my memory serves, between about $68,000 and $90,000.
Oh, my memory was 98 and 150, but whatever. Yeah, okay.
150 was the maximum amount that we were expecting it might cost, but turned out it was less when we got the estimates.
Okay. So I've given the draft letter that you drafted, and there were some edits provided. You each have a copy of the letter. And so I would ask, unless you have any questions of Mr. Buckland, then I would ask for a motion to authorize the chair to sign.
I move for the select board to sign for the letter of support for the grant application for one-stop program for the Commonwealth.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to authorize the chair to sign the letter of support. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it is so. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Buckland. I don't think we need you for anything else, unless you want to hang around, teach us about fishing.
I'll take a time off right now.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.
At 7:15, we were scheduled to have a hearing on a liquor license. I have been advised by council that we do not need to convene that hearing because the Department of Revenue seized the license last week. I'm now going to ask Mr. Bowen to explain to us, as a board, as well as the public, what the next steps are. The seizure notice was delivered to the Select Board office with all of the appropriate documentation. The actual license itself was, of course, in the business location, but we gave them copies of everything that we had, they being the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Hopefully this helps the board. The Commonwealth is a priority lien holder when it comes to things like overdue taxes. The ABCC has the right, upon petition of the Department of Revenue, to seize a liquor license for tax delinquency and for certain other delinquencies. What's happened in this case is that DOR has made that request to the ABCC. The ABCC has seized the license, and it's my understanding that what the ABCC will do next is to, in effect, auction the license off to anyone who wants to pay it and to use the proceeds to defray overdue taxes. Now, what does that mean for the board? At this point, nothing. All the lucky winner at this auction will be getting will be the right under Chapter 138, Section 12 and Section 23 to acquire the right to an involuntary transfer of the liquor license from the current, well, former owner to whoever wins the auction. In other words, they get the right to do an involuntary transfer of license application, and that application comes before this board, and the board is within its rights to approve or deny depending on the circumstances. If it's a transfer only of ownership and it remains at the same location, and of course at this point we don't know any of that, normally the only thing you'd be looking at would be the character and suitability of the new applicant. The location would already be deemed presumptively suitable on the grounds that you approved it once before, unless something really radical changed. as a matter of law, it's presumed to be still suitable. However, if the winning bidder obtains the license application right and comes before you seeking not only a change of ownership, but also a change of location, then you will be putting them through the full panoply of review that you would for any brand-new license applicant. And assuming that your reasons are good, you can approve it, and assuming that your reasons are good, you could deny it. Obviously, if there were a denial, it would go to the ABCC, and I don't know how friendly the ABCC would be to a denial where it's trying to collect taxes and probably only closes on the tax collection upon successful transfer of the license. Well, that remains to be seen. We don't need to worry about that now, but in terms of what the board has to do, right now you don't have to do anything. Someone will win this bid, will come before you seeking to transfer the license, and at that point, we can take a look at it and act accordingly.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Bowen?
So, one question. Mr. Bowen?
You need to speak. Yeah.
Mr. Bowen, upon review, let's say the select board either approves or denies the new license application. Is the standard of review abuse of discretion, or is it a different standard of review by the reviewing court?
It's a multi-stage review. The initial appeal is to the ABCC, and the case gets presented de novo to the ABCC. Usually, one or two persons from the board would go up and testify, offer their reasons for the vote that they took, and if the ABCC finds that the decision is rooted in elements of local discretion, for example, you feel that a neighborhood is too congested with liquor licenses, that there's no public need, that the premises is not suitable either because of faults in its structure or because of traffic and noise issues, the ABCC generally will defer to the local licensing authority. If there are no findings by the board, if there are no reasons stated, if the testimony, and I wouldn't expect this to be the case, if the testimony by select persons before the ABCC were unpersuasive, they would reverse you. The next level of appeal for either party is to the Superior Court, and that is a review under Chapter 30A. It's an on-the-record review, and the Superior Court will be reviewing solely a transcript of the proceedings before the ABCC. So it's very important at the ABCC level to get all the evidence in, all the reasoning. Good charts and graphs always help when you come to issues of too many liquor licenses in a particular area. You want to have a nice fat record for the Superior Court Justice to review.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay. We do have a 7:30 hearing, which is a formal hearing. We have an informational hearing immediately following that. But I'm going to ask Mr. Chadwick to try and bounce through a lot of this agenda so that we are able to, actually in another one, so that we're able to get a lot of the business done before we give what apparently is a very important, well, it is an important issue about oysters and the FDA and all that other good stuff. However, before we do that, I believe that the owner of Shenanigans Bar and Grill is here. Is that correct?
Yes.
Would you like to step forward, please, and identify yourself for the record? For the record, we had this business in front of us on March of this year because there had been several noise complaints over the past several years. And we have not received any noise complaints at all this year, although we've received complaints about the traffic and parking on Route 6 and 28. That's not allowed. It's a state highway, so your patrons cannot park on those roads. But that's the only complaint that we have. Would you identify yourself for the records?
My name's Stephen Hurlbert. I'm the owner of Shenanigans Bar and Grill.
I'm Patrick Tropiano.
representative.
Okay. We really have asked that you come here to make sure that you are now getting along better with the neighborhood and not polluting the air with your noise.
Not polluting the air at all, not since last year,
Okay?
not even a little bit. Any complaints they have about noise is from the people behind me,
Okay.
not me.
Are you operating with your windows closed?
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
we're barely operating.
Okay.
We're operating at an absolute minimum, not outdoors at all. I don't know if we'll reopen outdoors, maybe ever.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Hurlbut?
I do. I have questions. I was really interested in the discussion that I wasn't here, but I was watching at home on the discussion about working with Berkeley sound engineers to try to construct something that would help provide a baffle. Has that research continued at all?
It's actually, it's been held up. Can I do this, Steve? Yeah.
You do it.
We held it up a little bit.
Identify yourself for the record.
And the reason why we held it up was because it's a costly thing for them to do. It's not exactly, the cheapest thing in the world, and he's happy to do it. But there's an issue as far as, if you can see where they put those things out there, and there's probably going to be an adverse possession claim for that.
Jersey barriers?
Right.
Yes.
The place has been there 100 years, and, all of a sudden they come and decide that they want to close off the area that it's been used for parking, which has reduced his ability to produce money and everything else at this point. So as soon as that gets resolved, and I'm sure it's going to find itself to the court, and it gets resolved, then he's going to put sprinklers in the building, he's going to have the Berkeley people come out and do all the evaluation and so on. And then he will do those things, because at that point, he'll want to open outside, but he'll want to do it so that he doesn't make the neighbors angry or anything of that case, which I believe he's been trying to do right along, so. And I think some of the neighbors here.
I'll give you an opportunity to speak if you want to. Any other questions?
No, that was it.
No.
Thank you.
No?
I have just a...
Yes.
What do you think is the timeline for resolving the parking issue, if you can estimate it?
I wish I had an answer on that. It's currently putting me out of business. We had a purchase and sales signed for about several months, and that wasn't going anywhere. The woman that holds control of it has decided I called on the wrong night. Her husband had died of 37 years, and they chose not to sell. Maybe the grandson's in the house behind that. I don't know really what's going to happen with that. Either they'll sell or they won't, or the lawyers will try to take it by adverse possession, but it's got to get resolved or I'll be out of business. I can't operate at 50% capacity, and that's where we're at right now. I'm not even worried about the backyard or the noise or any of that because I can't spend any more money on it. It's currently put me out of business.
Okay. Sorry to hear that.
Me too. Been a long battle, long fight.
Thank you. Is there anyone here who would like to add information about the lack of noise or noise? Would you step forward, please, and identify yourself for the record?
Mike's here, I'll let you.
My name is Karen Ricardo.
And what would you like to say, Ms. Ricardo?
The problem, the music has died down, obviously, they're not outside anymore. And we did have the one complaint in April where they was so many cars that we couldn't even see to get out at the end. But this goes on.
Can you move the mic closer to you? Sorry.
It's a motorcycle. And they will rev 5, 10, 15 minutes without stopping. I don't know if they're doing it on purpose, there's no need of it. I don't know, all of a sudden, it wasn't like that before, and that's the only complaint we have is the motorcycle noise now. I know this one has one in it. But so you can hear a little music.
Excuse me, in the back, this is a business meeting. We try and give everybody our undivided attention. If you're chatting, it is disturbing to us, and I'd appreciate it if you stopped. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think this was one. As you can tell, the music is like I said, is not like it was. Oh, there it goes. I just lost it. I mean,
When was that, Karen?
what's that?
When was that?
That was in March.
The
The
bikes?
motorcycles, yeah, and it happens a lot. I mean, you know, it's like, they don't just start them up. I mean, they're gonna make their bikes. You're gonna start them up, you're gonna rev them, but they'll sit there and rev and rev and rev and rev. You know, and there's no need of that. That's the only noise complaint we're having now. And you
Thank
can
you.
hear the music a little. It's not annoying like it was. You know, at least you can, you know, you can go to sleep, you can leave your windows open. So they are,
My only defense on that would be that we're having problems with the neighbors behind us, directly behind us, with speaker boxes on the roof of their cars, their truck. They're partying out there, ripping it up. I've talked to them a bunch of times, could you please, because I'm the one getting the blame for it, not them. I'm directly involved with this, and they're in between us and the condos, and they're out there drinking beer. We've complained numerous times about them revving engines, revving bikes up, burning rubber. If you look at all the rubber marks in the parking lot on the other side of the barriers,
Yes.
that's not from me. I had to go out there and talk to the kid a couple of times and explain to him, like, all that rubber burning out there in the parking lot is going in my intake air, and it's affecting me in the kitchen. My cooks can't breathe. Could you please stop? So we've got a couple issues with the kid out back and what they're doing with the bikes and the trucks and the music. So, I mean, I'm doing the best I can to try to contain it, but I can't contain it all.
I have spoke with them, and they have seemed to calm down a lot over there.
little
I know what
bit.
you're saying, yeah. But they're not till 1, you know, they're not at midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning either.
Yeah.
They'll, you know, because they're right behind me. I
Yeah.
mean,
Okay,
right-
can
I
we
mean,
try and stick to,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, and
Exactly.
your noise complaints? So
Yeah, like I
you're-
said, right now,
okay.
it's the motorcycles.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the issue of the previously complained about noise complaints? Nope. I don't think we have any action to take, except to say thank you for listening to your neighbors and making it a whole lot better than it was, because it wasn't.
I understand that. We worked on it aggressively for a year.
Thank you very
Right.
much.
Very tight-lipped about it for a year.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening. It is now 7:30. Thank you. It's 7:30. We do have a hearing, and Mr. Chadwick, I'd like you to please make a motion to open the hearing.
I move to open the hearing for the Highlands, Inc., with the with earth removal license, July 2nd, 2024 through July 2nd, 2027.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to open the hearing. Is there any further discussion on the motion to open the hearing? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes. The hearing is now open. Would you identify yourself for the record, sir?
Yeah, good evening, Brian Wallace with JC Engineering.
And you are here on behalf of?
I'm here on behalf of Highland Inc., the applicant for the permit.
Can you speak to what it is that you are looking for and the documentation that you've provided to the board, please?
Yeah, of course. So
Thank
we are looking to, once again, renew the earth removal permit for Highland Inc. They've been operating a site off Glen Charlie Road for quite some time now, since I believe the 60s. They obtained a permit from the town originally back in 2006. And every 3 years, we have been renewing that permit. So we have provided a number of documents with this application. The current active permit, which expires July 2nd this year, along with all of the conditions set forth in that. We have also provided a summary of the quantities that have been removed under this permit, along with the average trips per day, as well as the total fee paid over the life of the permit, over the past 3 years. We have provided the workers' comp insurance affidavit, certificate of liability insurance, the Department of Revenue attestation, bond for $270,000, which covers the areas of the site that are actively being excavated. It's $15,000 per acre, I believe. A certificate of good standing with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the application fee, and the certified abutters list. Let's go through a little bit of the permit itself.
You do have the green cards with you, right?
You know, I left them at my office, and
Okay.
I can run and get them too, and I've.
You just take them to the office
Okay, perfect.
tomorrow would be
I scanned
fine.
them and sent them into you as well.
Yes,
so.
thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So as far as the permit goes, the the applicant Highland, they've been doing a great job of meeting all of the conditions of the permit and the plan itself back from 2006. A few of the conditions I just want to note that they're limited to no more than 50 trips per day. As it stands, so since 2021, on average, they're doing about 3 trips per day. So a relatively light use of the site for what it is. They have also paid, they pay 25 cents per cubic yard of material removed. So they've been doing a good job of submitting that into the town every month. Since 2021, they've paid over $21,000 just for the material they've been removing from the site. We at JC Engineering, we do inspections monthly and provide reports to the town, as well as reports on quarterly on how much they've removed. And from what we can tell, they've been removing what they have said they have been. I believe that's about it. The access to the site has changed, I think, a little bit since the last permit, just in that it still comes off Old Glen Charlie Road there, but they've actually extended the paved driveway to the site past a few new houses. So rather than the gravel meeting right at Glen Charlie Road, it's a paved surface for a couple hundred feet back. So certainly some improvements to the right-of-way there as well, since we last were here in front of you. I believe that pretty much covers it. So again, we're just looking to renew this for another 3-year period, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
The document about the conditions that was updated for the current expiration date, and there were a couple of oopsies on the insurance and stuff, and those have all been remedied.
Yep.
Yeah,
I,
so
sent that to you.
all of the documentation is in order in terms of what we require. Are there any questions of, yes?
I looked at our earth removal bylaws, and it looked as if some of the contents of at least an original application are not submitted in your application for renewal. Can you tell me why it is that this is a more abbreviated application? Is that just a custom, or where would I find the requirements for a renewal?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to that we don't have submitted. Perhaps it's the original plan that was submitted in '06, and
Right.
that might have been the land restoration plan.
That's one of the things.
Yeah, so that is included on the original plan that was submitted at the time of the first permit we did back in '06. I think at that time the bylaws were sort of being formed, so they weren't official at that point yet. But the plan from that time does address land restoration, and they have been doing a good job of restoring areas that have been completely excavated and no longer are active as far as the permit goes. There's a few areas where, the pines and the forest are starting to shoot back up. So I think that's the one main thing that we don't necessarily submit with every renewal, because it would be sort of redundant, I think, to submit that every 3 years. But
nevertheless, you're following that plan and
that is correct.
and pursuing that renewal and restoration as you go along.
That is correct. Yep.
One of the other things that hit me is, the removal bylaws were put in place in 2006, as you said. I think since then, the fee for removal has remained unchanged. It's the same amount as it was in 2006. That's a bit of time that's gone by, bit of inflation that's taken place. As I understand, at least by anecdotally, the value of sand has risen quite a bit. And one of the things I would just flag for us is that under the town bylaws, the select board has the authority to raise the fees for sand removal. Under this contract, the fee is fixed at 25 cents per, I think, cubic yard.
Yep.
I would suggest that the select board consider modifying the conditions to permit an alteration of the fee in the event that the select board finds that it's a good idea. It's in the interest of the town.
We actually looked at the fee schedule a year ago. We had a very lengthy discussion about what it costs to produce the cubic yard, and we decided at that point to keep it at the 25 cents. So we do an annual review of all of the fees that we are in charge of.
And under the current conditions, it looks as though the fee is fixed. You know, I would just suggest that altering it a bit, altering the condition to say, or as fixed by the select board, would give the select board a bit more flexibility to make a change if it were in the future in the best interest of the town.
Jerry?
In response to that real quick, I think before we start raising the fees for the honest businesses, which, how many businesses do we have in town that have earth removal permits?
Mr. Chadwick, I direct you to speak only to this permit, please.
Just saying, before we do that, there's a lot of businesses that are removing earth without a permit. So before we talk about raising fees, I would recommend the town start looking at the ones that don't have the earth removal permits. Sorry.
Yeah.
I feel that needs to be said.
And I understand what you're saying and where you would be going, but with respect to this permit, not talking about raising the fees as much as creating the ability to do so if the select board were to be determined to do so. To me, that would be wise business practice to create that flexibility, not necessarily to do it at this moment.
Okay.
So you've been doing this since 2006. How long do you think you'll be continuing to mine for sand at this site?
Yeah, so this site is sort of an integral part of the applicant's business, which is concrete. So the sand is used to produce concrete. As long as that business is operating, I believe this sand removal will operate as well, given that it's a product of the concrete. So.
How big is if I may, one follow-up question, how big is the parcel that you're working with?
The total size of the parcel.
306.
I'd have to check that here.
I thought it was 95. It's probably
More than that.
Several hundred acres, I
several.
believe.
It might be close to 300.
Yeah.
I was going to say it's around
think
300
it's- yeah.
acres. I walk the property frequently,
Yeah.
or around the property frequently.
How much has been excavated at this point?
So, through this permit, we excavated about 85,000 cubic yards, I believe. Since 2012, we've removed about 361,000 cubic yards.
Can you translate that into acreage for me?
Yeah,
That doesn't really compute.
It's a very small portion of the property, actually, because I've walked it too.
Okay.
Where they are doing the active mining, I couldn't tell you how many acres it is, but it continues to go when they get as, low down in the ground as they can.
It's a very small portion of the entire
It's a very small portion
property.
of the property, very small.
All right, thanks. I'm new to this, so I just had some follow-up questions. Thank you.
Any other questions?
None.
I would just comment, that makes me think it is a good idea to be able to increase the fees going forward, because there is potentially a lot more mining to be done.
Is there anyone here who would like to speak on behalf of the applicant? Mr. Sullivan, Noah Sullivan, would you please look to see if anybody, thank you. Is there anyone here who would like to speak against the application? Hearing none. Do you have any questions? Yes, Mr. Bowen.
Hi. Would you be willing to increase the amount from 25 to 30 cents?
I wouldn't like to commit to that at this time. We feel the operation of the site hasn't really changed, and what is being excavated out is significantly less as far as trips per day, trucks going out of the site than what is originally allowed, which is 50. So we'd prefer to keep it at 25 cents, at least through this renewal. And I fully understand, in the future, if that's something.
If the board were to take it under advisement, is that something you could get back to the board on?
Well, excuse me, the application is at the 25 cents. While I hear the concerns about that, the people who set the fee aren't prepared to discuss the fee this evening, so I don't think that's kind of sure.
Just seeing if they were willing to offer it.
I hear what you're saying. I guess maybe...
Come on, Judy, give the negotiator a break here.
No, you taught me well. I guess maybe to satisfy the question raised by Ms. Quirk, would you be willing to settle for a one-year renewal and come back in 1 year? In other words, as we look at our fee schedule, which we do in December, or as of December.
Yeah. Well, I'd prefer, to have this license be active for 3 years, 3-year periods. It's fair. A year goes by really fast. So,
You've answered. Thank you.
Yep.
You've answered. Okay. May I have any further questions? I'd accept a motion to close the hearing, please.
I move to close the hearing for the renewal of Highland Inc. earth removal license.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close this hearing. Any further discussion on the motion to close the hearing? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
Myself, yes, it is closed. I'll accept a motion.
I move to renew the Highland Inc. earth removal license July 2nd, 2024 through July 2nd, 2027.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve as requested. Any further discussion on the motion?
I would like to offer an amendment to change the language of the conditions to reflect the ability of the select board as the town bylaw state to increase the fees at a later point rather than fix.
Is there a second to that amendment motion?
Yeah, I second for discussion.
Go ahead.
This seems somewhat last minute and arbitrary. I would like to have a different forum to discuss this. I think that I'm sure you have good ideas and good reasons for doing this, but I don't feel like we've been able to discuss that at all in this instance with this single applicant. So I would prefer to have that conversation as a board at a later date.
And my response is, this is the time to discuss it. This is when the application is in front of us. It would not have been possible to do this before. And I would just remind the board that this is a question about modifying the ability or the language that enables the select board to make a change in the fees, as opposed to actually making a change in the fees, which would follow the kind of process that you're describing. It would, examine the costs and whether there have been changes in costs, et cetera. So this is not, to me, a drastic change. I view it more as a good business issue where as a select board, we are preserving the authority of this board to make changes to reflect economic realities for a fee that hasn't been changed in 18 years when a lot of the world has changed.
Okay, I'm going to call for a motion, for a vote on the motion to change the language to reflect the ability to change the fee. All those in favor, I will ask for a roll call vote. All those in favor, Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
You're asking for, and I say no.
Yes, and
No.
no. The motion is lost. The main motion is to grant the license as requested, and there was a second to that. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
No.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it is so. the paperwork, we'll forward it to you. We're going to actually have you this time sign, or you or one of the representatives sign the condition sheet. We haven't had you do that before, but we will have you do that. It is ready in the office to do that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
That won't be a problem.
Thank you very
All right,
much.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to move on now to an informational hearing on Buzzards Bay oysters. I was of the impression that Gary Buckminster was going to be here. Is he online? Yes. Okay, would you let him into the meeting? If you're here to discuss the oyster question, we would ask that you come forward one at a time and identify yourself, but I'm going to ask Mr. Buckminster to start the discussion off, please.
Good evening. Sorry, I'm just pulling up some of my notes for you. Sorry to be, welcome to the new Board of Selectmen. I'm sorry I have to bring this firestorm to you. I just bringing our information to you on behalf of our growers, our shellfishermen, our recreational shellfisher persons as well. As you've been made aware, US FDA is part of a national shellfish sanitation program, and they are going to be reviewing wastewater treatment plants. Recently, the city of New Bedford and Fairhaven had a review, and they closed approximately, there were two sections of a review, about 18,000 acres from a conditional closure to a full closure. So there was a pretty tremendous shutdown between Westport, New Bedford, encapsulating, I believe, some of Dartmouth, and then Fairhaven as well. And I believe the town of Fairhaven also turned into a fully conditional town, so the entire area has to shut down due to certain rain events and issues with the sewer treatment plant. We're just requesting, obviously we have some fishermen here tonight, grant holders that would like to discuss this issue. Marine Fisheries has taken the task of process of reviewing the wastewater treatment plants throughout Buzzards Bay, and most recently the required immediate reclassifications of shellfish grow areas. We have 15 commercial shellfishermen currently, as well as numerous shellfish grants in town here that we'll be discussing tonight, just on the effects this is going to possibly have. And we just need to make sure that the USDA is actually doing all of their research, both scientifically, between the program that they're currently using, which was developed from a researcher in UMass Dartmouth. And basically what it does is his computer model shows particle movement through the waterways, and it factors in wind, tidal, currents, everything going on, to see what kind of distribution from wastewater treatment plants. But we don't feel that they're doing all of the research that could possibly be done to try to minimize the impact what we could potentially be seeing. We have some places that, we have shellfish growers that are actually sitting here wondering if they're going to have a business in 2 years. And it looks as though that the US FDA through DMF is going to be coming in to start doing their research as soon as probably December. So, I'd like to turn it over to the commercial fishermen to just so you guys hear their impact on what's going to take place. We have a few panelists on board tonight that'll give you some concerns that they're faced, as well as the town. As you're aware, I'm the shellfish constable for the town. I'm also a town representative, and I'm not trying to go against ensuring that our shellfish is clean and we're providing a good product for consumption and helping our waterways. But we just want to make sure that the federal government is doing their due diligence, as well as the state, to ensure that we're not going to get severely impacted, so we start losing access to our regular our recreational shellfisher persons that are looking at it as sustenance, our growers that are looking at it as their livelihood. They're all residents in town. It's all town-owned businesses, and we're just thankful for you to allow us here to vent our concerns over this issue. If you have any questions, I'm open to anything, and we can see who wants to talk on it.
I sent you a draft of the letter that was created, and you had an opportunity to look at that, right, Mr. Buckminster?
Yes.
Okay, great. Do any of you have any questions of Mr. Buckminster?
None.
Yes.
Just making sure I'm understanding this. The closures that you're referencing are affecting other parts of Buzzards Bay at this point and not necessarily the oyster growing that's happening in Wareham, is that correct?
Yes, correct. They still have to do the study of the wastewater treatment plant to find out what is being discharged into the bay. And luckily, we haven't had any incidents that have discharged to the point where we've had to close anything. And so there's nothing reportable, and as long as I've been here. So I think we're on the good end of it. What you're going to see is if we don't go to the extremes of where they're closing extreme parts to a full closure and they're only going conditional, what you're going to see is that's going to eliminate the ability for our growers, our aquaculture specialists that are growing oysters and quahogs. They're not going to be able to sell internationally is a big a big concern of it, as well as just in general. I mean, if they get a closure, we're going to have to figure out a way to be able to somehow preserve their shellfish to be able to go on and be sold at some level. So we've got a lot of gray area currently right now that we're trying to figure out on this whole situation. But we just want to really get our word out right now before it even attempts to touch us.
And what you're looking for is that whatever limitations are placed on the oyster growing are based on fact and science, as opposed to what may seem like a bit of conjecture. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. We really want to make sure that they're doing everything they possibly can to ensure that, we want to do the right thing, but we want to make sure they're doing the right thing also and be able to minimize the impact.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Buckminster, I don't remember the year, but Mr. Campina, the previous plant manager, actually won the Guardian Award from the Buzzards Bay Coalition, and that meant that he was in charge of a plant that the Buzzards Bay Coalition found that there was no contamination or very limited contamination and had reduced the nitrogen outfall. Is that correct, Mr. Buckminster?
I believe that is correct. I vaguely remember that, but yes, you're pretty much correct on that whole situation. And I do hope that we're not seeing the numbers. Unfortunately, we don't know until they start really getting into it and looking at what the plant does and get it focused in on discharge amounts and putting it into their computer program. When they did Duxbury, Kingston, and Plymouth, they did dye releases. They did a couple things, but they had a pretty big closure as well that went from open to conditional. But I believe they were able to do as much damage control as possible, especially at Duxbury.
Thank you. I'm going to ask if any one of the individual...
Warren Peterson.
Okay. Would you identify yourself for the record, please? Is there a screen? No. Okay. She's with the Buzzards Bay Coalition? Yes, she is. We will have her speak, and then any one of the rest of you feel free to come on up afterwards. Good evening, Corin. How are you?
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to just weigh in on behalf of the Buzzards Bay Coalition. I just wanted to say that the wastewater treatment facility does do an outstanding job at treating for nitrogen and bacteria, and that the coalition does support Mr. Buckminster's concerns about what the FDA is requiring the Division of Marine Fisheries to do at the state level. And we do also want to make sure that all the facts and science are driving these actual closures, as to what may be some arbitrary line drawing here at the federal level. And so we are going to work on various a letter that we hope that all of our Buzzards Bay towns will sign on to our congressional delegation and the federal government, urging them to do some peer review and some more sound science before these closures go into effect for Buzzards Bay.
Could you identify yourself for the record, please, Corin?
My apologies, Corin Peterson, Vice President of Clean Water Advocacy for the Buzzards Bay Coalition.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions of her?
None.
No? Somebody else was there? No? Okay. Anyone in the audience choose to step forward and speak? We don't bite despite rumors. Hi, Phil. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. You're going to all take a seat, and you're going to identify yourself for the record. And actually, Phil, if you don't mind putting your name in a legible fashion and the name of your grant, please. I get to talk to him that way. I talk with his dad and his mom, actually. Phil Cheralucci is one of our grant holders, and go ahead.
Hi, Phil Gerlucci with Edgewater Oyster. I have grants number 1 and 2 in the Wareham River. And I guess I just ask for your support in our fight as it comes upon us. It'd be a shame to see an industry like this come to an end in a town with such a strong history based on a hypothesis, not on actual data.
Any questions? Mr. Chiralucci? Go ahead.
Pamela Reitzma, Crooked Cove Sea Farm, right in between Phil's 2 grants, grant number 5. My husband and I co-own the company, and this grant and part of Phil's, I believe, has been farmed for oysters in the Maxon family for over 100 years. So these grants, and as well as the cohoggers, this industry has been around for centuries in Wareham, and Wareham they're really well known. I think, the name Onset and Wareham Oyster is pretty well known around the industry. And we have a lot of growers that sell a lot of oysters. And the hard part that we have with all of this is that there's no instance of people getting sick. And that's what this is trying to drive and prevent. But there is very rare, I think there is maybe 1 a year, but it's not coming from our growing potential or the way that we're handling the oysters or growing the oysters or from the water. It's proper in handling, I believe, of the oysters. So there's not a legacy of people getting sick from these oysters. We all have very good standing companies. We've been selling oysters for a long time now, I think. So we're in support of, sound science and protecting people's health. We don't want people to get sick. That's not good for our business. We want people to enjoy our product and to safely eat it. And so if this was coming from a place where people were getting sick, I feel like we would also be in support of it. But the fact that no one's getting sick, and there doesn't seem to be a problem, yet we're getting all these new pressures from the FDA to look at a situation where there doesn't seem to be a problem. And that's where we're a little concerned.
It might be helpful if you explain how you regularly, the water where you farm is tested. How do you make sure that you are providing a pure product? I think maybe that's something that we previously have had board members who didn't know that we had oyster grants, so.
We're required by the Department of Marine Fisheries to ice our oysters during the warmer months. So that's something we all do anyways. It's part of, it's a part of the job.
What do you mean, ice them?
We typically have oysters on ice within, a half hour of coming out of the water before they go into market. The state requires that we do that. you know,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, my name's Dennis Pitsley, and I have the shellfish grant over in Fisherman's Cove, grant 5 and 6, and I've been growing oysters for 18 years. And we need your help.
Yeah.
We can't let this town be shut down to shellfishing. Can you imagine our beautiful town close all of it?
Yeah,
We
we'll find
really
a new
need
job.
your help. I mean, this is what our town is for. Everybody comes down to go shellfish. Everybody comes down to go to our water. And and it's, well, it is clean. It is clean. They test it regularly.
Yeah.
And we just need your help to talk to certain people and make sure this doesn't happen. Because I don't think we want to lose
There's never
our
been,
shellfishing.
there's never been an incident of somebody getting sick because of
Can you
a faulty
imagine-
wastewater treatment plant.
Can you imagine? So they're putting treatment plants in the water, and we're the only ones cleaning the
Yeah.
water. You know, each oyster
It's a
filter-
positive impact.
Each oyster filters 50 gallons of water a day. Each oyster. I have 500,000. Phil's got 750,000. We're the only ones cleaning the water. I don't understand why we're not getting paid even. You know, think about it. We pay to pump the water, we pay to pump the sewer in there, but we don't get paid to clean it. And we're the only ones cleaning it. But I just can't imagine our town being closed down to shellfishing. I mean, we're losing so many areas already because you've got moorings. All our moorings. I don't know how they help the town any, but we don't want to lose our shellfishing.
Thank you, Mr. Pitsley. Yes.
So I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here with you guys. You might yell at me, but I'm not going to stop.
No.
So, she might yell at me.
Oh,
You. This is all based on computer models, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
So, first off, I love oysters. I know I've talked to you many times. I'm going to say this right off the bat, and whatever, if someone wants to shoot me, they can shoot me. The U.S. and mass government have a long history of doing insanely stupid things, and it sounds like they're doing it again. I could play Texas Hold'em on a computer, but I'm not going to go to the casino and hit the high rollers table. That's basically it. I don't really have much more to say, but I'll gladly stand behind you guys and fight for you.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think we'd be the first ones to, you know, to be active if there was an issue. If there was people were getting sick, I would say, whoa, we need to do something here.
I know.
It's not the case.
So,
Like
so if we lose all our business,
Based
so
on a high-
nobody's cleaning the water anymore.
All right?
No, really.
Yeah,
Think
you're
about it.
absolutely right, Dennis.
All our shellfishermen out there every day go out long raking. We pick up, when we go cohogging, we take the trash home with us. You can't believe what people throw overboard. We take it home with us. We're the only ones that are cleaning this water in our town. We're the only ones.
Where are you going cohogging again?
But I'm just saying, we're the ones that clean the water and take care of it. And we're the ones that care the most.
is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this issue? I would just ask that you legibly write your name and what grant you have, please.
Hello, my name is Peter Tamagini. I've been a digger for almost 30 years, and I just would like the support of the Board of Selectmen to help us. What feels kind of arbitrary and capricious brought down on us. I mean, we've already lost, like Dennis said, we've lost a lot of area based on closures that the state imposed for moorings. So wherever there's moorings and a potential for somebody to stay on a boat overnight, we've lost those areas because they're afraid of potential contamination from somebody's holding tank failing or somebody discharging over the side. So, and I can go along with that. You know, I don't want to see anybody get sick from shellfish, but if we lose more area, it puts the rest of the diggers into a smaller area, and these guys will lose big time because they can't move. You know, the wild harvesters like us, we can move, and so if we get knocked out of one area or in a conditional area, we can move, but that puts us all in a smaller potential area. So any help that you guys could give to us would be greatly appreciated.
So you're a co-hugger?
I'm a full-time commercial fisherman.
Yep. Thank you. Anyone else? The more people who speak up, the more likely we are to make some kind of an impact.
We have another voice online as well.
Okay, go ahead, let that person in, please.
My name's Thomas Bickey. I'm wearing two hats tonight. My first hat is as the president of the Wareham Oyster Festival, and I support the oyster community in the town. One of the primary missions of the Oyster Festival is to support and assist local aquaculture farmers with the sale of their product at the festival. My second hat is as an environmental scientist, and I recognize it's a very emotional issue for those people that may potentially lose their livelihood, and understandably, they should be upset about that. But recognize that one of the primary missions of FDA and Fisheries and Wildlife is the health and safety of the general public. And I would suspect that if, an individual person found out that people were digging clams or raising oysters around boats that were discharging raw sewage into the water, they might be less inclined to consume Wareham aquaculture products. I think the primary concern that the growers should have are those growers that are in estuaries that are affected by sewage treatment plants. And unfortunately, it was both of the growers that were up at this table previously, that those growers in the Wareham River and those growers in Fisherman's Cove, one receives the wastewater from the Wareham sewage treatment plant, the other one receives it from Mass Maritime's sewage treatment plant. And my best judgment tells me that those are probably going to be the first closures if they go forward with closures. We have other estuaries in the town that are very slightly impacted by those sewage treatment plants. Those growers that are in Bourne Cove, where there's very little mixing of the water from the Wareham River with Bourne Cove or Little Harbor, and also the growers that are in Onset but not in Fisherman's Cove. So it doesn't look bleak for all the oyster growers unless they impose real draconian regulations that prevent, widespread closure of all the beds. Recognize that they have limited data, and there's really two components to the concerns that they have. One is obviously the sanitary waste that comes from the sewage treatment plants, and the other is the stormwater runoff. And you probably well know that we do a horrible job of managing stormwater runoff. Pretty much all of the storm drains on the streets just discharge into the closest body of water. And so along Main Street, all that water that runs on Main Street discharges into the Wareham River. And in other areas, it discharges to ponds and lakes and so forth. So we don't do a real good job of managing that water, and there are potential problems with some of the discharges from those waters. And the issue is not so much nutrients, it's bacterial contamination. And that's the issue that causes illness in people. So I think, from a town's perspective, we should have a position that says, we support the growers. We're also concerned about public health and safety, and that we'd like to see as much data collection as possible, and we'd like to see a report that shows the data that they've collected and the models that have been generated and the validation of those models and recommendations in that report before they have wholesale closure of the beds. That would be the scientific way to do it, would be collect the data, analyze it, run their models, validate their models, and then write a report with recommendations. And then, and only then, can we argue with them on a scientific basis whether it's legitimate to close a few isolated locations, or if they're going to go wholesale and close all of the beds completely. So that's pretty much all I have to say, and I'll leave my name on here.
Thank you. Questions of Mr. Bickey?
Yes, Mr. Bickey, with the closures that have taken place so far in the New Bedford area, do you believe that those closures are based on the kind of data that you believe is scientifically valid, or is it?
I'm not aware of that, but
Okay.
Most of the closures that have taken place are in estuaries where there is sanitary waste. And of course, New Bedford has a fairly large sewage treatment plant, so the river systems there are, I'm sure, probably impacted. And part of it depends on how good the sewage treatment plant is at treating the microbial waste. So if they do a really good job at doing that, then it's a non-issue. So I'm not aware that they've fully developed, the data and the model that they have, and they clearly have not issued a report on
Right.
that data. So I would suggest that, they have a full report that people can look at and evaluate before, the regulation shouldn't come before the data and the model validation. So.
Okay. So the way that the letter is drafted at this point really does call out the question of the reliability of the data on which the closures are being based. And so that would coincide with your view, Mr. Bickey? Excuse me, Dr. Bickey.
Yes. Yeah.
So why don't I, first of all, New Bedford has an outfall pipe from the sewer system. Having worked in New Bedford for a long time, I can tell you that in a rainstorm, all of the sewer pipes pop, the manhole covers pop, and this raw sewage runs across the streets.
Yeah, and so that ends up in the storm drains.
Right. So this is the draft letter. Town of Wareham agrees that public health and safety is everyone's first priority. However, we share the concerns of many in our region regarding the possible reclassification of the Buzzards Bay shellfish growing areas. The proposed regulations will put the livelihoods of our aquaculture farmers in jeopardy. Wareham currently licenses, did you say 11 grants, Gary? I can't remember what you said, including a hatchery. Some of these grants are actually held by third-generation family members. In fact, at one time in its history, Wareham was a major supplier of oysters to the New York market, as well as asparagus, just for those of you who really like trivia. Today, our grant holders continue to sell product throughout the South Coast and the country. The Select Board of the Town of Wareham has voted unanimously, hopefully, to submit our comments to you regarding the possible reclassification of Buzzards Bay's shellfish growing areas. While we recognize the importance of the computer modeling being used, we are concerned with the lack of data that should support such models. Prior to reclassifying the Buzzards Bay shellfish growing areas, we ask that each affected watershed be ground truthed, that multi-year water sample collection be obtained, and that a comprehensive report be prepared prior to shellfish bed closures. Without such significant data, we believe that closing productive shellfish farming areas would have a devastating adverse effect on our aquaculture farmers and the economic stability of this region. So that's a draft letter. Yes.
I just was going to second what the doctor said about, as far as like I fished out.
Identify yourself for the record.
Peter Tamagini. The initial closures seemed very broad, but I think a lot of that had to do with New Bedford's lack of wastewater management and the failing nature of the stormwater remediation in Clark's Cove and all of that. And I think that broadens that out to Sconnecut Neck and down to Westport.
Westport doesn't have a sewer system.
Right, and I just
They
mean...
it's all septic system.
Septic, but I mean, that closure goes towards Westport as it heads down.
Okay, great. Anyone else, please step forward and speak. Go, Dale Levitt, you're the person from URI, is that correct? Would you identify yourself for the record, Mr. Levitt?
I'd be happy to. My name's Dale Levitt, and I'm a property owner in Wareham, an oyster farmer in Fairhaven that is currently being impacted by the recent activities or recent regulations that have come down from Division of Marine Fisheries, and a resident of Falmouth. So I pretty much bracket Buzzards Bay with my various activities. I'm also a retired college professor that has worked quite a bit with these same types of hydrodynamic models that are currently being employed by the researchers from SMAST and being applied to the sewage outfall from currently New Bedford Harbor. Couple of points I'd like to make. One is that there really are two issues that are being discussed here, and I want to make sure that people don't confound them by trying to merge them together, although they're related. The first is the reclassification of certain areas of Buzzards Bay that are based on a hydrodynamic model that tracks the discharge from specific point sources of wastewater treatment plants. And the second is the combined sewer outfalls that are basically a situation where raw sewage is discharged into the Cushnet River and Clark's Cove due to excess rainfall, sort of overwhelming the sewage and street runoff collection system. I think what Wareham needs to think about is more the reclassification that's based on the hydrodynamic models that are being put forth by Dr. Chen at SMAST. And there are, in my mind, at least some issues that need to be addressed before Division of Marine Fisheries can take that as gospel and use that as a mechanism for revising their regulations. As already been noted, and by the way, I think your letter is excellent. The model has been what I would consider hastily put together. Dr. Chen has a very strong track record in using hydrodynamic models, but as is often the case with these models, it takes a number of iterations before they actually start to reflect what's happening in reality. And to my understanding, this model that Dr. Chen has used has gone through one iteration for New Bedford, and that has been where DMF has established their change in regulation. It has not been ground truthed. It has not been verified in terms of the accuracy of the predictions that it's making in terms of dilution. And it really needs a lot of more work, I think, before it could be used for promoting changes in our shellfish classification areas.
Thank you.
Yes. So, I mean, it's a little frustrating. The city of New Bedford has not been at the table for any of these discussions. And Division of Marine Fisheries is sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place because they're getting threatened by the Food and Drug Administration that FDA will shut down all interstate transport of shellfish coming out of Massachusetts if the Division of Marine Fisheries does not abide by the results of these hydrodynamic models. And yet they are basically throwing out decades of biological data that has been collected addressing the actual human health risk based on coliform assays that are done routinely by Division of Marine Fisheries. They're required to do that through the model ordinance, which is the document that sort of guides how each state handles its shellfish regulations. And so we have many, many years of coliform bacteria levels that have been routinely collected on either 5 times a year or monthly, depending on the classification of the area. And none of that data has been brought into this discussion at all. It's basically all been just totally disregarded, which I find to be particularly troubling given the fact that, at least at my farm, that has been in existence since 1987. And to my knowledge, there has not been one single illness coming from that farm. And yet I have been closed for over 60% of the time since January 1st, and I'm currently closed for harvesting. And so my business is well on its way out unless we can find some way of getting Division of Marine Fisheries to push back on Food and Drug Administration and try to add a little bit of sanity to some of this reclassification activity that's going on.
Thank you. Questions, Ms. Park?
This popped into my head. What does ground truth mean?
Fact.
Ground truthing is basically taking the results of the model and then going out and collecting real-time data to see how the real-time data compares to what the model predicts. So it's applied after the fact, after the model has actually started generating projections of what might be happening. I mean, the whole purpose of these models is to develop some predictive capacity in terms of what the potential impacts are, but they're not very good at predicting until they can go out there and actually verify them.
Yeah. Sounds like it hasn't been validated then.
Not at all.
Thank you.
I had a question. You said that your business has been shut down since January. Are these regulations already being put into play?
They have in the New Bedford area. We've already been, I think like eight or 10, I don't remember the number, but a very large amount of acreage has been reclassified from approved, which means that we have an open ability to harvest, to conditionally approved, which means that we are now subjected to a much more stringent sampling protocol, and we are more impacted by rainfall closures.
Sorry to hear that.
Me too. So right now the closure goes from the Dartmouth Westport line all the way through to the Mattapoisett Marion line, and all across the bay, all the way over to the Elizabeth Islands.
Somebody told me that Duxbury was also impacted. Am I remembering that correctly?
So Duxbury is being impacted more by the recent mooring classification problem that has come up. Okay. I do know that the Plymouth wastewater treatment plant was being singled out as being potentially a problem for the Plymouth and Kingston growers. But my understanding, and I'm not totally up to speed on it, but I think that they actually have, the Plymouth sewage treatment plant has either the ability to discharge in the bay or discharge using ground injection. And I think that they have switched their primary means of disposing of their output to ground injection rather than direct discharge into the Cape Cod Bay.
Thank you. I invite anyone else in the audience. Somebody else?
Somebody named Slavin.
Oh, Slavin, certainly.
I don't know if it's...
It doesn't matter, yeah. Seriously, the more people who speak, the many voices get heard better than a couple of voices.
Sandy Slavin, thank you.
Yes.
All right. I'm not here as a sewer commissioner. I'm here as a longtime resident of Wareham. I remember growing up when the feed and grain store would not allow to sell grain so you could feed the swans and ducks because of what they were putting in the water at Wareham River. There are dozens of swans in there now contributing to pollution. Everybody who walks a dog on a beach contributes to a pollution. Walks the dog and does not pick up, and the stormwater washes that pollution into our water. There's a lot that the town individuals can do to help reduce the bad stuff in the water we put into our rivers. That was my only comment. Take your dogs off the beach. They don't belong there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. Thank you.
My name is Amy Tamagini, and I'm also a commercial shell fisherwoman in town. And I also ask for your help in representing us to not have this happen without the sound scientific data behind it. I mean, the model doesn't really talk to, testing our waters. And it's important that we are represented, so I'm very happy for you to help us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions of Ms. Tamagini? I see two people who haven't yet stepped up. No? Yes? Oh, okay. Is there anyone else?
I think we get the point.
Yeah. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this issue?
And I think they know that we're here
Okay.
for them.
The letter that I read is a draft which would be sent to Markey, Warren, Keating, Pacheco, William Skifford. You name them, we'll send it. So if you have any other suggestions, I mean, you know, I'll find out who the FDA people are and send that there as well. But to me, my personal opinion is, you all know this, I will not eat an oyster, not for anyone.
I'll have yours.
However, I support the fact that the industry has been in this town for more than 100 years. There are several generational grants out there, and it would be a shame, in my opinion, to have non-facts shut down a fishery. So, any other information, any questions? I will accept a motion to authorize the chair to send a letter to.
So moved.
Is there a second motion? Is there any further discussion on authorizing the chair to send a draft of the letter that was read into the record? Hearing no further discussion, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Oh, what's her face? Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes. The letter will go out tomorrow, and we'll make sure that each grant holder gets a copy of the letter, if that would be helpful to you. Thank you very much. Very much appreciate all of the individuals who spoke this evening.
So weird.
Thank you all
I'm
very
so
much.
hungry
Appreciate
right
it.
now for some weird reason.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go back to the agenda, and Mr. Chadwick has some appointments that he'd like to get approved, please.
We can do that.
Let's do that.
All right. First one, Council on Aging. I move for the reappointments of Lynn Wheatley Beaupre and Carol McClure with a term to expire June 30th, 2027.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the two reappointments as written on the agenda. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I'll go for a roll call. Here we go fast. Quirk?
Aye.
Corbett?
Aye.
Chadwick?
Yes.
Whiteside, yes, it is so.
I move for the Conservation Commission, we can do Paula Jean O'Neill and Sandra Slavin for reappointment with a term to expire June 30th, 2027.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve those reappointments. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it is so.
I move for reappointment to the Conservation Commission, Denise Schultz, associate reappointment term to expire June 30th, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the reappointment of Denise Schultz. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
Myself, it is so.
I move for the reappointment of Citizen at Large Community Events Committee, Linda Gay and Kevin Costa, with a term to expire June 30th, 2027.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve those reappointments. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
Whiteside, yes. It is so.
I move for reappointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals, Troy Larson, with a term to expire June 30th, 2029.
Is there a
Second.
motion made and seconded to approve the reappointment of Mr. Larson. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk? Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
Mike Whiteside, myself, yes, it is so. We're good. Okay, we've done 7A, 7B, 7C. Let's go for the licenses and permits.
I
on
move to
eight.
approve a permit and road closure for the Parkwood Beach Association Sing-Along and Food Truck Event on July 3rd, 2024, pending all department approvals.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve as read. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
Myself, yes, it is so.
I move to approve a permit and road closure for the Parkwood Beach Association Beach Party event on August 10th, 2024, pending all department approvals.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
Myself, yes, it is so.
I move to approve a permit and road closure for the Parkwood Beach Association block dance application on Friday, August 30th, 2024, pending all department approvals.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve is read. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Just so that the public knows, all of the documentation required in terms of a day of insurance coverage and road closures, all of that would have to be approved by the police department and possibly with details, but all of the paperwork is in order. Let's go to 9B. Mr. Chadwick.
I move to accept the donation to the Wareham Free Library in memory of Pauline Thomas for $25 from Candy Seeley.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve a donation. Any further discussion on accepting that donation? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it is so.
I move to accept the donation for, to the Spinney Library for $1,000 from the Friends of the Wareham Free Library.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve a donation to the Spinney Library as read. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Ms. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it is so.
I move to accept the donation to the Police Department DARE program for $1,500 from Ashley Faye Amato Memorial Fund.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept a donation. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it is so.
I move to establish fees $25 for a one-day wine and malt liquor license for profit business.
May I-
Second.
Second. Okay, we don't have these one-day licenses, and we don't have fees set for them. So, working with the office staff, we created these 4 different licenses with the different fees, and we looked at surrounding towns. We looked at our current fee schedule for, a year or whatever, and came up with what we figured was a reasonable fee, which would be the 25 as recommended. There's, all of these require paperwork. When it comes down to it, we're not making any money on it, but it's reasonable to expect people to pay for a fee. Pay a fee, yeah.
Maybe we should talk about this under the next item, but I would like to talk about the fee for nonprofit businesses.
Okay, let's do the first one, because he made a motion for the first one.
Seconded.
Okay. Any further discussion on the fee for the one-day wine and malt liquor for for-profits? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Chadwick?
Yes.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Myself, yes. I'm looking at you and talking to him. It is so. Go ahead, Mr. Chadwick. Let's try that one.
I move to establish fees of $25 for one-day wine malt liquor license for nonprofit businesses.
Second for discussion.
Yep, go ahead.
So I would like to propose, and I hear that there's work involved, so my initial thought was to have no fee for nonprofit businesses. I've worked with, nonprofit companies, organizations in town, and I know how stretched they are, and as a former Board of Library trustee, there were some places we couldn't go because we couldn't afford the entrance fee. And these are very low, but I would like to discuss potentially no fee for nonprofits.
Is that your amendment to the main motion?
Yes.
Is there a second to that amendment?
I'll second it
Yes.
for discussion.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I was running a nonprofit for years, so I understand that it costs money to do stuff, and I agree, maybe $10, I think would be somewhat fair all around. And honestly, if they can't afford it, I'll throw in the $10.
I mean, I think it would be good to charge something because we do have town employees the town has to pay who, we have to get the money somewhere. So I think it would be good to have something, maybe not as much as a for-profit business, but a lesser fee.
I think $10 is fair.
Okay. Is that part of your motion?
I
Which
move-
would be the main motion?
To amend,
To be the $10 fee?
yes.
Okay, and...
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion on the one-day wine and malt for a nonprofit, which would now be $10, item F, am I correct?
Yep.
Yep.
Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Aye.
And myself, yes.
Yes.
Okay, next.
I move to establish fees of $50 for a one-day alcohol liquor license, nonprofit only. Like to amend that.
Just, yeah, may I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to establish the fee as $50 for a nonprofit.
And I'd like to make the same amendment of lowering it to $10 for a nonprofit.
Second.
Okay. I think $10 is a little cheap. In terms of,
How much more paperwork is there to be filled out for?
well, you've got the forms, so it's the same amount of paperwork.
It looked like a
'Cause you
single
have to
piece of
get-
paper?
No, you have to get the insurance, you have to get, we did have the packet in here. There's a lot of paperwork that has to be checked off. You have to have department approvals, it has to go through our computer system, you get a
For the
sign
all
off.
alcohol?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You get the Board of Health, you get the police, you get the treasurer, you get the building, and the fire department, whichever fire department, and then it comes back to us. So there's several sign-offs that have to be gotten before it can be approved.
So 25 then?
What seems reasonable to you, Madam Chair?
I mean, I quite frankly would stay with the 50, but, and I wouldn't vote against the 25, I didn't. I mean, wouldn't vote against the 10, but $50 isn't really that much for a fundraiser, and I just, I'm not going to vote against it, I will tell you that.
It's not for the
Yeah.
bigger nonprofit organizations, but for the youth organizations or the smaller nonprofit organizations, $50 is, that's.
And I will tell you that from time to time, we actually waive fees. So,
Which sort of makes our case.
yeah, it does. All right, so there's a main motion for $25 for the one-day all-alcohol nonprofit,
Yes.
and it was seconded.
Yes.
Is there any further discussion on that? Comes the main, I'll go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes. It now becomes the main motion. We're going to have to go back and do the other one. Ms. Quirk, the main motion is now for $25. May I have we've already got the second. I'd like to go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it is so. I need to go back to the other one, because we did the $10, but we didn't notice that it now became the main motion.
Motion,
So,
okay.
yeah. So I will go for a roll call vote on that. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Ms. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it is so. Okay.
Okay. I move to establish fees of $50 for a one-day entertainment license.
Overall?
Yes.
Second.
Yeah. Yes, that would be the, Parkwood having a dance on the street, or, any one-day license. And we do have requests from time to time from areas or businesses that want to do something like that. And again, the paperwork is, and it requires insurance, naming the town as a lost pay. Is there any further discussion on that one? No? Okay, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, it is so. Okay.
I move to name Judith Whiteside to the Plymouth County Advisory Board.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve me to the Plymouth County Advisory Board. I'm replacing Alan. There is a meeting of this board on the 6th, where Alan will be given some pats on the back, so he will be there and will be there. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it is so. I need a motion for a confirmatory vote.
I move for a confirmatory vote for temporary sign permit for the Oyster Festival that was held on 5/26/2024 and voted on 5/21/24 under 24-hour business.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to confirm the vote that we took under 24-hour business. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it is so. Okay, discussion
Establish a
and
bylaw review
possible-
committee.
The charter has been ratified by the town election. It was sent to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts archivist, and it has been recorded. We can now move forward with doing whatever we need to do in terms of that. So I would ask for there is in here someplace, I wrote it down. Motion to create a bylaw review committee under section 8.4, and I would suggest a 3-person board, and you made that motion, right? Did you make the motion already?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Ms. Quirk, I'm going to ask you what your thoughts are, because you previously served on a committee that did a lot of work on bylaws. What do you think of a 3-person committee for this job, or what are your thoughts, please?
I think a 3-person committee is a good idea. I think it's, there's a lot of work involved. I would say there has been a lot of work done, and that work can be carried forward with a newly constituted committee. And so I think 3 people, especially one person who has been involved in the past in the process, with the help of 2 others, could do this job. I would suggest, if possible, that one of them be a lawyer, because I think that's helpful.
Okay. If we create this board, then we do the interviewing of the applicants.
That's right.
Okay. So I'm going to read into the record what it says. The charter reads, no more than 45 days after the charter shall become effective, which it has, the select board shall appoint a special committee of not less than 3 members to review the existing bylaws of the town in order to bring them into conformity with this charter. And I would add to this charge what previous individuals were doing was, in addition, the select board has the authority to charge the bylaw review committee with further tasks. We charge the bylaw review committee to additionally conduct a complete review and analysis of the town bylaws, not the zoning bylaws, but the bylaws, okay? And recommend and present to any town meeting such changes by amendment, reorganization, addition, and/or deletion, or as it shall deem to be necessary or desirable. And the term for this committee would be no more than 18 months, because they hopefully would be able to report to the October and certainly no later than the April town meeting. Is there any further discussion on creating that committee? Hearing none, I will go at 3 members. Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Ms. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it is so. Okay, we did that one, and, okay.
Liaison.
The liaison assignments. Now, I have spoken with Mr. Bessie, who's not here tonight, but I know what he doesn't mind giving up. Unless you want to hold it off another week, but I think we can.
If you know what he's good with, then
I think I
we
do.
should proceed.
Okay.
This is where you usually stick somebody with the United Nations Study Committee.
Okay, so alternative energy, I think we had decided, Ms. Quirk, that we were going to talk about that later. Do you want to?
Yeah, what I would say is I'm fine to be the liaison to alternative energy.
okay.
I would like to come forward with a proposal for restructuring and refocusing the committee, and I'd like to do that at a later time.
Okay. Okay, so does anybody object to Ms. Quirk being that liaison?
No.
Okay. Audit Committee, it's me, and my most famous move at this table was when I was first elected, taking the audit and tossing it over my shoulder, which caused the sitting members to almost have a fit. But we never got one of those comments again. So I'd like to stay there.
It's fine.
Okay. Board of Assessors? Any takers?
No.
No, okay.
Leave that
It is,
one on.
we're on. Board of Health, it's currently Jared, although I have been going, but it's,
I'm in there, well, I'm in the health department left and right, at least once or twice a week, talking to them, so I'd like to stay with that.
fine with me. Bylaw Review Committee,
We just went over.
we,
Oh, wait, charter, never mind.
yeah, let's hold off on that one because we've constituted, we don't have any members yet, so, okay. Capital Planning, again, it's finances, I don't mind doing that unless one of you wants to volunteer. Voluntold, no, okay. I'm already on the dump, but I don't mind being replaced. Mr. Menard, Ms. Cobb also serve on it.
What's
I didn't.
disposed of, I guess.
Okay, the Regional Refuse Disposal District is the proper term. Any other takers? No, okay. Cemetery Commissioners, it's been me, but if anybody would like to volunteer, feel
You've been
free.
doing such a great job.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much, okay. Community Events, the member is Jared, so we don't need unless you want to replace Jared as a member.
I am starting a work in progress there, so I'd like to
Okay.
stay with it.
Awesome, excellent. Community Preservation is me at the moment, but I don't mind rats, okay? I guess, yes. I'll stay there.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
let you stay there.
Okay. Concom, I think we know who would like to be on land use boards.
That would be I.
Any objection to that being, okay, excellent. Council on Aging, you would like to do that? Excellent. You being Ms. Corbett. And Finance Committee, it's me, and I don't mind staying there because it goes along. Golf Course Advisory,
Is it even a committee anymore? Yes, I'll stay with it.
I don't mind switching over if you don't want to do it.
No, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, they meet like in the afternoon.
If you want, that's fine. I have no problem with it.
Well, why don't we put both of us down in whichever, because it doesn't matter. Okay. Historic District Commission and Historical Commission. They serve two different purposes, although they are constituted under the same chapter of the law. I guess I volunteer for that.
Sounds good.
Liaison for the Library Board of Trustees, that's Corbett. Mine at Forest, that's sort of land use, but it's also, it's open space, really. Have any of you decided that you wanted to do that? No, rats, okay. Me, staying. Open space, it was me. Does anybody want to, okay. Planning Board, liaison.
I'll do that.
Clerk. Plymouth County Advisory, we just did that, so,
I'll stay as liaison.
yeah, okay. Recycling,
Contact me.
Did you want to do that?
We talked about the possibility of merging it with alternative energy. But why don't we talk with Amanda? And talk ourselves and see what.
do you want me to hold off on that one, totally?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Road commissioners, now that the charter has been adopted and processed, the road commissioner article, which was passed in a previous town meeting, will be forwarded by Mr. Pacheco, and I don't know when that will happen because it's budget time, as you know, so I was cautioned by his aide that it might take a couple of months at most. There doesn't seem to be any reason not to, anyway. So I'll stay there for the moment, but it'll go away. School Committee?
I'll stay with that.
Okay. I think it's wise to have two of us, and we'll talk about what liaisons do in a minute. Sewer, I know that we had a volunteer, and the last name begins with a Q.
Well, that narrows it down.
It does, okay. Southeastern Massachusetts Commuter Rail Task Force, this is one of Alan's, and I'm not sure if we can delegate the representative. I don't like replacing him on these things where he's got, 12 years of roots going
Yeah.
on. So can we hold off on that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Serped, we get to do two representatives, one from the selectmen and one from the planning board. Ms. Quirk was the one from the planning board previously, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So if you switch seats and become the planning board rep to that, then the planning board is, the select board, then the planning board is going to have to come up with a rep.
Right.
Do you have any idea have they thought about that without naming names?
I'm sure they've thought about it, but I don't know where their thoughts have landed.
Okay.
And just for your information, Alan and I have talked about this, and I think Alan believes that he may end up with a position with Serpide, where he is in the position to be able to continue to be helpful
Okay.
and to monitor it.
Okay.
And my position is whatever he would like to do, I would support.
Okay. So why don't we hold the SMMPO2 aside, just because, again, those are things that I need to straighten out with him. The Veterans Council, I will stay there. It was Alan. This committee has 3 members down from the original constitution of 15, and so last year I served on the Veterans Parade Committee, and this year I'm also doing it, and I obviously very much support Veterans Affairs. I'd like to stay there, and I'd like to see a stronger council, but I don't know how that's going to work out.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, okay. That's, okay. The Affordable Housing Trust needs a member. They haven't had a member, so it's not a liaison, it's actually a member, and they meet during the day at 9 in Town Hall. We could do the old, you missed the meeting, so you get voluntold. Mr. Schultz is very concerned that we haven't had a representative on there for a while.
Do you know if he has any thoughts?
He wants one of us, like yesterday, because they are coming up on a meeting, and they are not.
I can't with my revolving schedule.
No, I know.
Yeah. I'm worried about biting off.
Yeah, yeah. Fine, I guess I got voluntold.
Congratulations.
Cultural Council, I'm the liaison, but I don't mind giving that up.
I'm interested in that. If you wouldn't mind holding off on that one till next week.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that. They do give out money regularly. The Redevelopment Authority, Ron has been a member. He told me he would be resigning. And until he does resign, there isn't a vacancy. But when there is a vacancy, Corbett would like to be that member.
Okay.
Okay, and I would like to stay. Okay. I will double check with Ron. ZBA liaison, maybe it makes sense for Quirk to get voluntold on that one too?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. All right, I think that does that.
I believe
Okay,
reorganization of select board.
okay, let's do the minutes first.
Okay. Yeah, did you change it? No, it's the same.
Yeah.
All right, I move for the approval of meeting minutes of the select board meeting on 5/21/2024.
And there
Second.
were some corrections that were made on the iteration that's actually in the box. A motion didn't have the roll call vote after it, so that was corrected. So is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, aye. Probably in the box. All right, go for it. Mr. Sullivan has been excused by me, as I said. Are any other liaison or initiative reports or board's comments?
I have a comment.
Comment.
Yep. I would like to bring Sherry's thoughts forward about rethinking on the sand removal, earth removal pricing. I think it's worth a larger discussion than we were able to have here today, so I'd like that to be put on a future agenda.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Do you want the next meeting, which would be the 18th?
Please.
Or do you want more time to do more homework about what other people charge? Because there are fees in other towns. Carver has a fairly strong permitting
No,
process.
that's 2 weeks away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, so the 18th? Okay. Any other business under 48 hours? No? Okay. The reorganization of the board is usually done the meeting after the election, but because Ms. Quirk was out of town, she was on vacation. That was the last vacation she's going to get. I would accept a motion for chair.
I move to appoint Judy Whiteside as chair.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to appoint me as chair. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Aye.
And myself, aye. I will accept a motion for clerk.
I move to appoint Jared as clerk.
Mr. Chadwick?
Jared Chadwick.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second that
Motion made and seconded to make Mr. Chadwick be clerk again. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Chadwick?
Yes. You went the wrong way.
I went the wrong way. Too many
don't know what to
oysters.
do.
Yeah. Ms. Quirk?
Aye. I think it's good to get them on record before.
Yeah, before he quit, yeah. Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Just for the record, I think that there will be some nattering about people staying in the seat too long. Our office staff are,
I'll explain it.
Go ahead, do it.
All right, so we have new office staff, and honestly, the reason I haven't moved up to chair is because it's a lot of time to devote. Ms. Whiteside is in the office almost every day for, I would say, minimum of 4 hours, making sure paperwork is correct, making sure documents are signed. And honestly, right now with my kids being so young and working at the fire department and plenty of other stuff that's going on in my life, I honestly cannot step up to be chair. I'm hoping if reelected next time around, then I will be able to take over the chair at that point if I'm voted in for it.
Okay, it's interesting because last year we had 2 new members on the board, and we also had new office staff. 2 brand-new office staff. And at the moment, we have 1 brand-new office staff, so we have 1 who's been with us 4 days, 5 days, and 1 who's been with us not quite a year. It's a lot of work. A lot of work. And that doesn't mean that other members shouldn't be, hanging around and tailing him or me or, spending time understanding what goes into creating something like this, which looks like a lot.
And I'm in the town hall quite a bit, but I think you live there.
No, I don't. No, I don't. Anyway, any further discussion to come before this board? No? I will accept a motion. Oh,
it's
we
me.
should have,
It's me.
I know it's you.
It's me.
Okay, do
I'm
it.
taking over for him.
Do it.
I move for adjourn.
Is there a second to the motion? It's not
Second.
debatable. Motion made and seconded to adjourn. It is not a debatable motion. I will go for a roll call vote. Ms. Quirk?
Aye.
Ms. Corbett?
Aye.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you, Wareham, and good night. Thank you so much.